It's quite possible and tempting to be more in love with the idea of reconciliation than to engage in the actual work of reconciliation. In other words, we can be enamored by the idea of reconciliation and racial justice until we realize it involves confession, confronting, truth-telling, repenting, dismantling, forgiving, and bridge building. Furthermore, racial reconciliation, for some, has been relegated to merely personal change or transformation. Me, myself, and I, my heart, my soul. No doubt personal change is absolutely essential. People need to change. But this work can't be solely about personal change. It must also engage structural and societal change through education, healthcare, justice, banking and finances, entertainment and storytelling, sports, and so much more. Simultaneously, some people believe we need only systematic change, altogether ignoring the power and importance of personal change. Our hearts and our structures need transformation. Both are essential. Brown Faces, White Spaces urges us on in that transformative work. This book is pastoral and prophetic. It's personal and communal. It's vulnerable and disruptive. Through it all, the book and its author never relinquish the exhortation to fix our eyes on Christ, the author and perfecter of our faith. Reverend Eugene Cho, president of Bread for the World and author of Thou Shalt Not Be a Jerk, A Christian's Guide to Engaging Politics.
Author's Note. Dear listener, I'm so glad you're here, especially given the weight of the topic. It's not easy to pick up a book about racial injustice, particularly when the book examines uncomfortable, often even painful, historical truths. So, thank you for engaging in this conversation with me. Books like this one, books exposing the artifacts and lingering effects of racism in America, require a lot of humility from both the author and the listener. Both must start from the premise that our personal experiences are not universal. Both must be open to listening, learning, and lamenting as we explore history. Both are obligated to engage the material in search of transformation rather than from an entrenched position of critique. I hope we can do this as we journey through this book together. Brown Faces, White Spaces explores how Black, Indigenous, and other people of color have intersected historically with systems of oppression in the United States of America, and how the effects of that oppression have an impact on our nation today. It's important to remember that Black, Indigenous, and people of color, BIPOC as used throughout this book, are not a monolith. We have different experiences within systems, and still, we have a collective story of systemic injustice that connects us to one another. So as you hear these stories, understand there are numerous BIPOC experiences, but there's still a certain connective tissue within them. We call that connective tissue history. As you learn about the individuals whose stories help illuminate key truths about our nation's ongoing reckoning with our racial history, hopefully you'll see the connective tissue and how it ties into your story, the story of your relatives, or the stories of friends or acquaintances who have been on the giving or receiving end of systemic racial injustice. Maybe your story within the system produced different outcomes, maybe even more positive outcomes. We can celebrate those positive stories while at the same time not denying or deflecting the total impact systemic racism has had on groups of people for centuries. Please note that systemic racism is a complex issue in the United States, and I didn't have the page count to delve too deeply into each system, the white spaces addressed in this book. In fact, each system represented in these pages could be a book solely on its own. The important thing to remember is that each example of systemic racism, whether in one of the systems depicted in this book or in another system altogether, has a human face. Put another way, systemic racism causes very real harm to very real people, many of whom you know.